I'm going to go ahead and get started for today. And if there's any questions, this is being recorded and you can enter your questions in the chat, please. Let's get started. Well, welcome. Today we are talking about engaging your network. So targeted fundraising for Colorado Gives. This is training webinar number 2, and it's part 1 of a 2-part series. And of course, today is August 15th. My name is Jordan Brown. I'm the Nonprofit Success Manager at Colorado Gives Foundation, which runs coloradogives.org. A couple of housekeeping items before we dive in. This webinar, as I mentioned, is being recorded. The recording and the slide deck will be emailed to you post-event within a day or so. Please remain on mute and use the Zoom chat unless we prompt you otherwise. And then if you have any questions or ideas or things that you want to talk about, your first line of support is to email support@coloradogives.org. A quick recording disclaimer. So any account information and data used in this demonstration are works of fiction. And so if we're seeing any data or demos or presentations here, they're all example information to protect donor and data privacy. Let's do a quick recap before we dive in, because it's a big year this year. In 2024, Colorado Gives Day celebrates its 15th giving event. It was created in 2007, which I don't know about you, but this made me feel a little bit old. The same year the first iPhone was released. And it was created to make it easy for donors to support nonprofits in Colorado. So to drive more philanthropy, drive more good. In 2010, again, the same year the first iPad was released, Colorado Gives Foundation created Colorado Gives Day with a goal of raising $1 million. And $8 million was raised in that first year. In 2023, $54 million was raised on Colorado Gives Day. And since 2007, more than $600 million has been raised for Colorado nonprofits on coloradogives.org. So if you're here to raise funds, you're in the right place. And we thank you guys for your tremendous years of partnership to leverage this amazing resource and online giving platform. What we are going to cover today. So for today, we are going to talk big picture about the different types of donor segments that you should be engaging or considering engaging for Colorado Gives 2024. We'll chat a little bit, just as a reminder, about the resources to help you get there. And then we'll dive into the donor segments. We'll talk a little bit about acquisition versus retention and where your focus should be. And then we'll dig into activating your supporters. So what tactics for Colorado Gives Day can you use to engage different groups or segments of your current audience? We will cover on August 29th, part 2 of this webinar. So if you are yearning to get your hands on a demo, we will be doing a bunch of demos during that webinar related to everything that we're talking about today. And so we're going to be demoing peer-to-peer fundraising, recurring gift setup, matching grants, how to personalize your page overall, so some tips and tricks to make it feel good for all of your donors, forms and widgets, and then we'll talk about and create an example business group giving page for the business challenge this year. So that will be part 2. Today's takeaways, I thought, let's not save this till the end. Let's talk about the takeaways up front and then see if we actually achieve them at the end. So today's key takeaways is that Colorado Gives has a nonprofit and business toolkit that will be available starting September with the messaging and resources to engage different audiences. So everything we talk about today, you will see message templates available starting September 15th for the Nonprofit and Business Toolkit to do all the great things we're talking about today. We want to encourage everybody to begin segmenting your audience now to determine where to focus your energy and begin creating your engagement outreach. So after today, your homework for next week, start thinking about what we're going to talk about and how you can engage different segments. And last, just more of a reassurance, you don't have to do everything we talk about today. I'm going to cover a lot because we're talking to all Colorado nonprofits. But for you, the charge is really to have some decision making. Where is the low-hanging fruit within your current network, and how are you going to test and engage them in your campaign this year? All right, so a quick refresher on some resources, and then we'll dive into the good stuff. So I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of the resource timeline that we are working on for Colorado Gives Day 2024. So August 29th is that part 2 of this webinar series around donor engagement. September 15th is when you can access the nonprofit and business toolkits. September 18th is when we're meeting again virtually, and we're going to talk about the toolkit. So really dig in and go through all the resources and answer questions for all nonprofits. On October 3rd, 10th, and 17th, we're going to have 3 webinars. The first 2 will be about prizes, so prize strategy specifically. And then the last one there is going to be a checklist. So all of the best practices, all of the reminders that we think you might need prior to Colorado Gives Day and the kickoff, November 1st. And then, of course, Halloween. And just a reminder that important Colorado Gives Day dates are November 1st. Early giving begins on November 1st. So any online donations happening through the system will count towards your Colorado Gives Day totals starting November 1st. And then, of course, we will have our virtual nonprofit kickoff, which every year is just so much more fun than the last year. We always bring in celebrities, businesses, influencers, and really, we want to just celebrate you guys. So we hope you'll join. November 24th, just for you that if you're a new nonprofit, it's the last day to enroll. It's the last day to click that enrollment button to get on the platform, to have an organization page on the platform. And then from there on out, it's giving season. So we start with Thanksgiving, move into Giving Tuesday, have the big day, December 10th, and then you should be also focusing on excitement and riding that wave into your end of year fundraising strategy. I've included some resource links here for you to get started. If you need to go to the nonprofit resources page, that link is available on the footer of coloradogives.org as well as here. That is where we are going to be posting the toolkit. So that is an important link. Go ahead and bookmark that. It's also where we outline a bunch of other resources that we have available. The Help Center. So we have a full Help Center full of FAQs and how-tos and ways to kind of guide you through using coloradogives.org. Of course, I mentioned we have full-time customer support. And so they're Monday through Friday, normal business hours to help you out. So that's your first point of contact. And then I've created just a quick link resource guide. So all the links that I'm always sharing with all of you wonderful people, I've put them all in a document as the most popular how-to links. I want to remind everybody that this is webinar 2 of the Colorado Gives Day webinar series. And so go ahead and make sure that you are also RSVPing for all the other great upcoming webinars. They're all free. And as I mentioned, you saw on that timeline, they're going up and throughout October this year. We also have the Next After Institute webinar. So we're partnering with Next After, and they are putting on a monthly digital fundraising strategy webinar. And so that really gets in the weeds about what to click and what to say and how to say it and how to adjust. And so I encourage you to check back there monthly because we'll be posting them for everybody to engage with. There's no RSVPs needed for these webinars. Last, but certainly not least, we're going to talk about a lot of ideas and potential tactics. Do not feel overwhelmed because you have a resource to help you get this work done prior to Colorado Gives Day. So this year we are providing all Colorado nonprofits access to a free Catch a Fire subscription. If you're not familiar with Catch a Fire, it's a volunteer matching platform. So you come to the platform, you post a project to create an infographic or rethink your social media strategy. They pair you with a professional volunteer that is an expert in that work that helps you get that work done. So they do that work on your behalf. And so this is an amazing way to get free pro bono work done leading up to Colorado Gives Day. You, as well as any of your staff members, can access this. So it's not just for Colorado Gives Day. You can use it for anything all year round. And it is a subscription that goes into 2025. So we encourage you to use it for many things. All right. So those were the resources. Thanks for hanging with me while we did a quick refresher. Now, I want to ask everybody to enter in the chat and answer this question for me. I'm just looking to measure the temperature. Where do you, as a nonprofit, see that there's some untapped potential for donations in your current network? So last year, when you were thinking about the campaign, were you like, oh, I really want to talk to our business partners, but I just don't have time this year, or I just don't know what to say or how to say it? Maybe your volunteers are a big group of untapped folks. So I'd love to hear from everybody in the audience, just what are you thinking? What might be your plan this year as far as who you might target? Yep, volunteers, corporate sponsors. Amazing. Great. So we're all in the same boat here, as you can see by all the answers coming in. We are all thinking about matching grants. We are all thinking about businesses, volunteers, how to get the word out to networks of friends and family. That's great. Oh, county, that's a good one. So how do I get the word out to the county, Pat says? There are so many different strategies. And again, a lot of that's going to be answered by all of the great toolkit resources that we provide you in September. But let's dig in to some of the places you might focus. Giving trends, both on coloradogives.org and nationally, may indicate these 4 main supporter segments that you can activate for Colorado Gives Day 2024. Just as we mentioned, business and employee giving. It is the fastest growing segment of charitable giving right now. We also want you to focus on major donors. You know, it takes time and effort, and especially if you're just one person running a development team, but we know that the time you invest will come back tenfold by identifying just a few major donors. Returning donors, so people that are coming back. I think sometimes they get overlooked, and we want to make sure that you are celebrating with them and also potentially appealing to them to maybe upgrade their donation to a larger amount. And so there's definitely some tactics we'll talk about there. Recurring donors is another huge chunk of folks that we really want to engage. There's so many folks out there that aren't the major donors. They aren't necessarily the peer-to-peer fundraisers. And they want to make an impact, but they don't have a huge amount of money or time to do it. For them, you can appeal to them to set it and forget it. Set up that matching grant and support us all year long. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. These are the 4 main donor buckets I like to make sure everybody is thinking about, because this is where we are seeing the most donation revenue come in. I want to pause here while we're talking about businesses, and because it's such an exciting piece of the pie for Colorado Gives Day 2023, I wanted to mention that in 2024, in 2023, we did a workplace giving report. And so we partnered with a consulting firm. It helped us listen to business leaders and entrepreneurs in order to create this report and kind of measure the temperature of philanthropy in Colorado for businesses. The data was consisted of interviews and surveys of more than 150 businesses. We learned a lot about businesses in Colorado. 37% of businesses gave $25,000 or more annually. 74% make long-lasting philanthropic investments. Great. That means your time that you're investing up front now will pay off. But the one that really got me was the 58% projected growth for business donations. So in other words, we asked businesses, what are you planning to give? Are you planning to give more in future years? And with those answers, we were able to calculate a projected 58% growth in charitable giving related to businesses. So this is a big piece of the pie that we're going to be talking about this year. If you would like to access the report, it's here in the slide deck, and we'll drop it in the chat as well. It's a fascinating report, and it's short, so it's not going to take a lot of time for you to read through it. So that's just one of the 4 donor segments that we are suggesting that you prioritize for Colorado Gives Day 2024. We are also listening and talking every day to all of our wonderful nonprofit partners. And we identified 3 other supporter segments that you should consider activating for Colorado Gives Day: board members, volunteers, and event attendees. So while those may not be the major ones, they are ones that oftentimes are easy to identify and easy to engage and make an ask, as long as it's the right ask. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Other supporter segments in your network should be nurtured all year long. And really, you should be having touch points with all of your different supporters and network throughout the year. 3 that I wanted to mention: new and current donors. Of course, we want to make sure that you are engaging any new donor coming through coloradogives.org if you're using our platform year-round, or wherever you're accepting donations. You want to nurture those new donors, create a donor welcome series. We have a ton of webinars in our library about creating donor welcome series. So that is a nurture section that you want to be cultivating all year long. And of course, current donors. So educating current donors, talking to them about the progress, the impact, using you-focused language to inspire them, and telling really specific stories where they can see themselves in your nonprofit and your mission. Subscribers and partners. So subscribers to me is anybody that's maybe not specifically a donor, but is a hand raiser, has subscribed, is on your email lists. And also partners. So again, maybe not the traditional donor, but certainly someone that you want to engage with, that has their own network and audience that can amplify your campaign. So how are you making those partnerships even stronger? Through Colorado Gives Day. And of course, program participants and alumni. So oftentimes we're so busy helping these folks out, we forget to ask them and engage them for the campaign. So we'll talk a little bit more about this. And I'm not necessarily saying we want program participants to be donating large chunks of money. That's not the point of this. Instead, we want them to be sharing their story and their experience with your nonprofit to inspire others to give. All right, another chat question for everybody just to check in. Why do you think today we are talking mostly about your current network, not about donor retention, not about acquisition, but about donor retention? What is, to you, the reason that you might focus on donor retention versus acquisition? Awesome. Yep. Tanya said it right. More efficient, cost effective, less resources required. Yep. Great. Yep. Exactly. You've got it, guys. It doesn't mean that we aren't, as a whole, for Colorado Gives Day, focusing on new donor acquisition. Our marketing team is incredible, and they do statewide new donor acquisition tactics every year. And every year it increases, and we see tons of new donors come to the site and show up and give to one or multiple nonprofits. That said, we do also notice that there is low retention on the platform, low to average, and we want to make that better than average. We want to see Colorado Gives Day be amazing at retaining your donors and the reason that donors are coming back and building stronger relationships with you. New donor acquisition is costly. So think about it this way. You already have the data on your current network. Your nonprofit already has current contact info and fundraising data to leverage. You already have insight and knowledge to build on. Also, you have the connections. Now, whether it was just a chance meeting at an event or a subscriber or a follower on social media, your communications can build on that potential donor's previous knowledge to deepen that relationship and, of course, to increase giving. New donor acquisition is costly, so much so that acquiring new donors can be 50 to 100 times more expensive than the dollars given. And it sometimes takes several years to make back the amount, aka break even. So Colorado Gives Foundation and all of our media partners and sponsors, we are taking on that burden of cost to acquire new donors. And we are asking you to look at your current network and start investing time in engaging your current network in new and different ways for Colorado Gives Day. We also know that higher retention equals more money raised. I thought this was interesting, so I just wanted to include most major gifts are made after only 5 years of an individual gift being made. So those first couple years are really important as far as bringing them along, talking to them, identifying what's important to them, and engaging them in special campaigns and events like Colorado Gives Day. So let's talk about activating your current supporter network. In taking a closer look at the supporter segments you might engage for Colorado Gives Day, I tried to organize them in a way that made sense in buckets. So you might tackle some with similar strategies. So we have donor segments, major donors, returning donors, recurring donors, group segments, business giving, board members, volunteers and event attendees, and then program segments. So we're going to talk about program participants, alumni, and program partners. First, let's talk about major donors. Major donors are few and far between, but some of the most impactful givers in general and for Colorado Gives Day. So they represent a small pool of folks that give a large amount of money on Colorado Gives Day. We know that major donors show up, so we are prompting you and inspiring you to start asking and identifying who those major donors are so they can get the most out of that donation, whether it's being matched, whether it's the incentive fund or a prize that you're trying to win. Major donors want their dollars to go as far as possible. And so when you're approaching a major donor, ask them, what's most important to you? What's most important to your gift and how you want it to make an impact? And take that conversation into how they can participate in Colorado Gives Day. If you don't have any new donors yet, or excuse me, major donors yet, let's take a step back and we can generate a list of all your donors and donations in the past year, maybe 2 years, however you want to look at that. You can also average the largest gift you've received And then that average of the largest gifts you received, that's the threshold for your major giving right now. That gives you a milestone, a benchmark to start building strategy around. So that would be my first step to creating a major donor strategy for Colorado Gives Day. Identify who those major donors are and understand what the threshold is generally for major donors right now for your nonprofit. That's going to inform any communications. It might inform how you update things like your donation form. And so it can be really impactful to make subtle changes and specific focused communications to folks like potential major donors. Tactics to participate. Major donors are great at providing matching funds. Makes sense. If someone is giving a $10,000 gift and they typically give it in September, tell that person to wait. Ask that person if you can leverage that gift as a match to boost your campaign, to boost excitement, and to get more folks to give. Major donors also typically have a great network where they can share and spread the message of your campaign. So whether that's social sharing, forwarding emails, coordinating with their business, or other community activities that they're involved in, they are great at amplifying your message. If you're looking for new major donors and you just don't have any yet, I think they might be hiding in the donors that haven't yet donated via IRA, donor advised fund, stock, or wire. And so if you aren't aware, coloradogives.org can process IRA, donor advised fund, stock, or wire gifts on behalf of your nonprofit all year long and for Colorado Gives Day. So that might be a whole new revenue stream for your nonprofit to consider. So if you don't have major donors, consider who would be great at donating through an IRA, who's of the age, that is the appropriate appeal and message to ask of them.
Go ahead and ask question. Hey, Jordan, we had a quick question.
Sure.
Mo was asking if you could repeat what you suggested to ask a major donor. So talking about what's important and how would you like to see it used. Could you kind of say that again?
Oh, yeah, sure. So with a major donor, they really want the impact of their donation to go as far as possible, and they want to be able to easily communicate where their donation is going to and how it's impacting. There is, from my point of view, no better way to do that than to ask them to, for example, set up a match, which allows them to concretely talk about how their donation is driving other folks to give. And so I think with a major donor, it's about personalized messaging, and it's about communicating that their donation can do even more by giving through coloradogives.org and or during the Colorado Gives Day time period. Does that help answer that question? Okay, if not, Mo, I think you have my number. We can certainly hop on a one-on-one call. Happy to chat further about it. That's a great question. Okay, so we talked about matching funds. We talked about raising awareness through major donor networks. So asking major donors, hey, in addition to making this donation, how would you feel about sharing this social post? Sending this blast email to your 10 friends and family members. So there are other ways you can leverage and build upon your current relationship. And last, but certainly not least, and we'll talk about this more, major donors, typically wealthier, typically employed or networks from their employee and business engagement. So how are you asking them to share with their friends, family, businesses, and business? If they currently work for a business, they can set up a group giving page and participate in the business challenge. So there is a lot that you can ask major donors, and it might be different in each conversation and that you have. Some ways that you might engage, like I mentioned, any major donor, you need to spend time on the resources so they can see the value in what you're providing and what you're communicating. I thought this was a great idea. We always hear about memberships and asking people to join and become a member and become a recurring giver. I love the idea of creating a major donor society. So maybe it's only 5 or 10 people, but those 5 or 10 people, they're your major donors, and that sets the bar for how much they are going to give, and anybody new who wants to join that society should be giving as a major giver. So just a fun, different way that you might angle and ask for major gifts. Invite them to join your major donor society, where they get special reports, special information, a meeting with your CEO, whatever that looks like. Last, ways to engage for major donors. We want you to be thinking about events and in-person meetings. So a lot of this, as much as we email and post on social media, a lot of this is in-person and real-life connections that we need to make, especially with major donors. So keep that in mind as you're scheduling and having all of your fall events and your in-person meetings. That is going to be the most effective way to communicate the importance of that major donor's gifts and the impact that they can make on Colorado Gives Day. Oh, Colleen says they are launching a donor society this year. Ooh, I want to hear more about that, Colleen. See? Great. Major donors also, we want them to keep coming back. And this is true for all donors, right? But again, with that personalization, even if it's just 5 or 10 people, take the time to create a recognition wall, send handwritten thank yous. We did that last year for our major donors, just FYI, it worked. They came back. It was amazing. So that kind of stuff, even if it's for a small segment of your audience, can be really impactful. Deliver a gift basket. I don't know if I want a gift basket as much as I want time, the value of time and the conversation with someone that I'm donating large amounts of money to. And then last, and I love this idea, and you can do this for your entire Colorado Gives Day campaign, make a personalized thank you video. Everybody has an iPhone. Everybody can record or have their CEO record a 10-second thank you video saying how much their donation means. You can put that in all of your communications. You can put that on your thank you page. So lots of ways that you could use a video thank you to really send the message home and make a person feel good, especially a major donor. Next, let's quickly talk about returning donors. So people who gave during the campaign last year, and you want them to come back. Again, I think these folks are a little bit overlooked. So I wanted to spend some time here because we do see that returning donors give 3 times more. That's right, 3 times more than any new donor. So again, that's going back to the acquisition versus retention. You have access to a built-in retention report to identify who these donors are, who did come back, who didn't come back. How can we celebrate those who came back? How can we make sure for those lapsed donors that we really spend just enough time to see if they'll come back and join us for Colorado Gives Day? Or maybe those lapsed donors gave another time throughout the year. So again, using that built-in report in coloradogives.org, in a couple clicks, you have full visibility into retention as well as recurring gifts from years and past campaigns. This report is also a real-time report. So as Colorado Gives Day is unfolding, you can continue to go back to that report and you can see who's coming back and who's not. And so that is a report that you can download, use that donor data for future communications. Tactics that you might use for these type of donors to participate. So these are the pros. They've been here, they've done that, they've given before. Wonderful. Capitalize on that. Let's get them really excited and get their gifts in early. So that is a great way for especially those who understand Colorado Gives Day and don't necessarily need the extra education piece. You can have them give early starting November 1st. An upgrade appeal. So we could spend an hour just on upgrade appeals. And that's why I wanted to make sure to mention it today. And we can follow up with some additional resources and details in part 2. But an upgrade appeal can be really great for those people that maybe are on the cusp of giving a larger gift, and they just need that extra nudge. They need that extra appeal, that extra validation that their $50 gift is going to do this for your nonprofit instead of their $35 gift. So take a look at everybody who gave last year and try to see what the trends are and try to see if you can segment some folks and talk to them about upgrading their gift. So increasing the amount that they're donating. Of course, monthly recurring gifts. So for folks that are returning, we love one-time donations. We will never not ask for and celebrate one-time donations. But these returning donors may be great recurring givers. So that is another appeal that you can present to returning donors. This year, instead of making a one-time gift, let's do this together year round. Set up a monthly gift. So what is your value proposition for how a monthly gift will help your overall mission and nonprofit? Last, but certainly not least, peer-to-peer fundraising. I am a huge proponent of peer-to-peer fundraising because that's what I do every Colorado Gives Day. I'm never going to be a major donor. I'm never going to be able to give to all 4,000 nonprofits. But what I can do for my budget and for the passions and nonprofits that I love is that I can create an individual fundraiser page. And maybe I was only planning to give $100. But by sharing that fundraiser page and telling that story with friends and family, I end up raising $800 or $900. That actually happened to me last year. So peer-to-peer fundraising can be really powerful and a really great appeal for returning donors. Again, those folks who they're pros, they understand Colorado Gives Day, but they just might need that extra nudge to do a little bit more. Ways to engage. So for returning donors, we of course want to tell them about the 2023 impact that was achieved together. Again, we don't want to be talking about your nonprofit and your mission and all the great things you did. You want to talk about all the great things that the donor's contribution did for your mission, programs, people. You also want to be able to communicate and share your campaign goals for 2024 and any specific needs. Maybe you have a capital campaign that's going on or about to start in 2025. Let these donors in a little bit more. Give them more insight into your plan and where these funds are going to be applied. For returning donors, we can always get them to create a matching incentive. So, or excuse me, a recurring gift incentive. So this year, and we'll talk about it on the next slide, we have $250,000 available for any donor that sets up a new recurring gift. So if you are looking at your bucket of returning donors and you're saying, what am I going to ask them? There may be a certain segment of those folks who would be great at setting up a recurring gift, and you can use the matching incentive, that gift match incentive, to compel them to do that. And as I mentioned before, whenever you're talking to any donors, and we do this too, we have to reiterate and figure out every time we are sending out communications, making sure that everything we're doing is you focused. So inspiring, compelling language that gets them excited and lets them see themselves in your mission. It's so easy for us to fall back on our nonprofit did this, we achieved this, these goals were met. But instead, you can easily flip that switch and make it you-focused language. We have some amazing webinar recordings with Institute for Sustainable Philanthropy and some other folks specifically on changing your content so it's you-focused. If you haven't yet, visit our webinars page and scroll down because we have a library of webinars, many of which do touch on how you can change the content, your appeals specific to you-focused language. Last but certainly not least is recurring givers. So as I mentioned, we have a $250,000 recurring gift match. And it begins this year, November 1st. Last year began November 20th. We are extending that. So it's starting when early giving starts this year. Any donor with a new recurring gift gets their first gift matched, and that's up to $100. You might remember last year we matched the second gift. This year we're making it even easier to message by matching that first gift. If you're like, Jordan, what's going on? What are you talking about? Every year, we are looking for new ways to incentivize and celebrate donors coming and giving during Colorado Gives Day. This year, same as last year, we are putting up, and by we, I mean Colorado Gives Foundation, $250,000 to match any new recurring gifts set up. And so from November 1st until those matching funds run out, anybody who sets up a new recurring gift gets up to $100 of that gift matched for your campaign. Your messaging to these donors, whether they're recurring or other, is to set up a new recurring gift. Once they set up a new recurring gift, our system will see that, and your gift will be matched when we disperse those funds post Colorado Gives Day. For those who have a gift set up on coloradogives.org that is recurring currently, you can tell them to end that gift and set up a new gift for 2024. That will qualify them for this match incentive. When you're asking them to set up a new recurring gift this year, make sure you're also asking them to upgrade the amount. Unfortunately, things never get less expensive. And so your messaging to folks and your appeal really for recurring gifts should include an upgrade and ask to give more than maybe they did in past years. Ways to engage. So we talked about with these recurring givers, again, we say they're set it and forget it. And it's very easy to set up a recurring gift on Colorado Gives. Donors can manage their own recurring gifts within Colorado Gives. So eliminating any customer support, any burden of that sort for the nonprofit. And we want to make sure that we're celebrating that they did set up a gift and that their gift matters. We want to explain the year-round need, even provide a defaulted form. So we can default your Colorado Gives Day form to monthly. I'll show you 2 ways to do that, and we'll do that in part 2 when we go through the recurring gift demos. The last thing I want to mention is a refer a friend campaign. I've been talking to a lot of nonprofits, and this has come up a bunch of times, which I love. So oftentimes for recurring or returning donors, they don't have a lot of time. They have enough time potentially to refer a friend. Do they know someone else that would be a great matching grantor, recurring giver, one-time giver? Think about how you might set up a refer a friend campaign for Colorado Gives Day, should you want to engage with both your recurring giver and allow them to suggest new people to reach out to for Colorado Gives Day. So those are some ideas on major, returning, and recurring donations. We are really excited to present to you guys the Good for Business Challenge for Colorado Gives Day this year. And with that, we are going to help you help your businesses become more philanthropic, not just for Colorado Gives Day, but they can use the pages created year-round. So for this year, and we'll talk about this certainly much more in our prizes webinar, but this year you can expect that there is $50,000 available for the first 50 businesses to raise $1,000. So these are matching funds that are dispersed to the nonprofits that these businesses are raising money for during Colorado Gives Day. It's so easy for any business to join. We have a Good for Business Challenge page that you can navigate to on Colorado Gives. We'll drop that link in the chat here. And all the business has to do is create the page, create that group giving page. That will trigger us, that will trigger our team to reach out, handhold, help that business be a successful fundraiser for Colorado Gives. So we want to make sure that we are taking the burden off of you, the nonprofit, and helping those businesses become better online fundraisers through this Good for Business Challenge. The ultimate goal is that these businesses define new and better ways to be philanthropic, and that stronger relationships are built between businesses and the nonprofits that they're raising funds for. Some tactics to participate. As I said, you're sending businesses to the business page, which we've dropped in the chat. The business creates the group giving page, and we are helping them to launch the page, answer any questions, make sure the page looks and feels as they desire. And that page can be used all year round. So for other events, other partnerships that you're having with this business partner, you can use that page again to drive donations. These pages are also for the business to share with their employees. So businesses are amplifying your campaign by sharing their business page that highlights your nonprofit. So all in all, it is a really exciting and popular way for you to engage any of your business partners or new business partners without a ton of work on anybody's end. Okay, I just saw a question from Maddie. Can we drop the business page link in the chat when we have a second? And Maddie was asking if I'm talking about business pages on your website. We are talking about business pages on coloradogives.org. So businesses can create pages and highlight one or many nonprofits. Any money raised through those business pages count towards your Colorado Gives Day campaigns. Those businesses also have an extra incentive. So we set up that if they raise at least $1,000, the first 50 businesses get matched that $1,000. So there's a lot of different benefits to businesses creating a page and participating in Colorado Gives Day this year. Good question. Let's talk a little bit about board members. Board members are important and often local influencers. They're busy people and they need an easy way to participate. I am the first one to agree with that statement because I wrote it, and also because I was a board member, and we are all just incredibly busy and also at different levels of experience with technology and fundraising. And so in order to engage your board members, I want to say first, carve out some time. You guys meet frequently. Take that first or that last 15 minutes to help them set up their fundraising page, write a social media post for Colorado Gives Day, whatever that looks like. take that time in these next couple meetings leading up to and during Colorado Gives Day to check in with your board members. Because if you activate them correctly, they can really, really amplify your overall campaign. Of course, we can ask them generally to make a one-time or recurring gift, and that is the standard. We could also ask board members to donate via IRA, donor advised fund, stock, or wire transfer, if that's something that they prefer. And generally, we can assume that a lot of board members might be at that age where they do hold IRA or donor advised funds. We can ask individual board members to create a fundraiser page. So maybe Sally, your board member, really wants to talk about her first year serving on your board. She can really easily create her own individual fundraiser page and raise a ton of money for your nonprofit for Colorado Gives Day. Board members can also contribute to a board matching grant. So maybe you just want to make it really easy for everybody this year. And you're saying, okay, board members, $500 from each of you will make for a really strong, exciting matching grant for this year's Colorado Gives Day campaign. So you can ask them to contribute to a matching grant. Of course, we want to make sure, again, because these folks are influencers, that you're asking them to be sharing the campaign or resharing what you're doing on social, forwarding emails, sending their own blast emails. And so often that looks like, especially with board members, creating templates. So we will have a bunch of templates in Colorado Gives toolkit. And then if you want to create unique templates, you can create a unique fundraiser template on coloradogives.org. And then you can also create unique text to share with your board members. I know our representative shared for different campaigns, unique specific messaging points that we could share as board out. And it was so helpful because I didn't need to think about it. I could just celebrate with everybody else. And then of course, board members typically are on employed by a business or alumni of a business. And so engage their business. Ask them, hey, the so-and-so business that you do or did work for, would they be interested in supporting us for Colorado Gives Day? We have tons of fundraisers on coloradogives.org that are for board members. And so I encourage you, if there's one thing that you do this year, you can create a fundraiser page for all of your board members. You can set that up and they can all give through that page, share that page out universally, and that allows them to also celebrate and see how much money they are raising on behalf of the nonprofit. So that is some ideas around board members and how you might engage them. When we are talking about volunteers, I consider these folks a prime audience for peer-to-peer fundraising. So we want you to invite volunteers to be a part of the Colorado Gives Day campaign this year. So volunteers, generally speaking, aren't going to be your major givers. They're not going to give typically multiple times throughout the year. And that's because they're giving you time, they're giving you love and attention by physically, typically volunteering or doing work on behalf of your organization. And so we don't want to ask them typically to be giving during Colorado Gives Day, but you don't have to. You can ask them to raise funds on your behalf. And again, so asking them to create in a couple clicks a peer-to-peer fundraiser page, an individual fundraiser page that tells their friends, family, and network their story about why they love your nonprofit and why they're raising funds for Colorado Gives Day for you. Within your organization page, if you're thinking about engaging volunteers, you have the ability to set up a volunteer fundraiser template. So when they click that fundraise button, they're not landing on a blank fundraiser page. You've already inserted some suggested text, maybe a suggested goal or image, And so that is a tool that can be really effective, really for any peer-to-peer fundraising campaign, but specifically for volunteers, because sometimes they need a little extra help with how they talk about Colorado Gives Day and about their experience with your organization. Also, through your organization page in the campaigns area, you can track all of your peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns. Any page that's connected to you, you can run reports on and see their progress. You should be encouraging volunteers, peer-to-peer fundraisers, through email, starting now. We want to start ingraining it in them that this year, they don't have to give funds. They just have to share their story in order to inspire. I wanted to mention here, because I'm seeing it more and more, within coloradogives.org, you have the ability to adjust your donation form. You can add up to 2 custom questions. I'm seeing a lot of organizations who have a volunteer program or rely heavily on volunteers actually asking a question in the donation form, keeping it optional, not required, but asking, would you be interested in volunteering? So if volunteers are really important to you and you're encouraging your current volunteers to fundraise on your behalf, it might be a good idea to include a custom question on your donation form so you can collect more information. Other donors, new donors, other folks in their network might be also great new fundraisers for 2025. And so doing little adjustments like that seems subtle, but can really impact how you evaluate your Colorado Gives Day campaign post-event. Volunteers are also amazing people to spotlight, and I think we all know that. We want you to focus on individual and personalized storytelling to these different segments. Focus on one story that's inspiring, that evokes emotion, and then present your appeal after you tell that story. Volunteers are great for spotlighting. So if you have volunteers raising funds on your behalf, spotlight them, tell the world what they're doing, tell your other audience members what your volunteers are doing for you for Colorado Gives Day. When we surveyed businesses for the 2023 business report, we saw that 60% of the businesses were sponsoring nonprofit events. So we want you to think about, what events do you already have planned for Colorado Gives Day and for any time from November 1st through December 10th, or really end of year. For these types of events, you can now create an event page on coloradogives.org. Setting up an event page allows you to have a digital representation, an online representation of the event that's happening. It gives you somewhere to drive folks to engage with and learn about the campaign, and also provides a really obvious way for people learning about the campaign to give back or to get involved. Some ideas around using an event page for any events planned through the Colorado Gives Day time period. Of course, it's very easy to set up an event. We have a bunch of how-tos on how to do that. You can then, once you set up the event, include that event link in your email or communications out so people can land quickly on that event page and read about it. As you're inviting people to your events, in person or otherwise, those who RSVP yes, so those who are attending the event, send them to your event page. Ask them to donate ahead of time, or better yet, ask them to create a fundraiser connected to your event page. Fundraise on behalf of the event. We've got 2 months until the event happens. Let's raise some funds leading up to it. For those who RSVP no for the event, you might ask for a gift in their absence. So you'd be sending them again to this event page and encouraging them to give in your absence to meet those specific event goals. Another way I've seen these event pages used in communications and engagement is in the post event. So in the thank yous. Some people are more inspired after the event than they are before. And so your follow-up and their thank yous matter. And by sending folks and asking them to contribute or set up a recurring gift through the event page, creates a more personalized and relevant experience for them when you're asking them to give. And then just a reminder that just like everywhere on coloradogives.org, these event pages have matching grants, they have real-time donations reports, they have a robust set of customizations to make it really look and feel like your in-person event. So we would love you to think about how you're engaging event attendees. Last slide, guys, I promise, and then we're going to get to the questions. The last group of folks that we want you to consider for Colorado Gives Day are the folks that you're helping or have helped. So program participants, the folks that are currently going through your programs and need your support. Program alumni, and then program partners as well. So program participants, we typically, depending on your program, of course, but we typically don't want to be asking them for donations. We are providing them services. So the assumption is that they need additional support. They can't give it. But they can create a fundraiser page and tell their story with that fundraiser. I see a lot of current program participants raising funds or creating a scholarship page for future folks. They loved their experience so much. They want to raise funds for future people to get the same program service that they got. So there's a lot of different ways that current program participants, again, without a monetary contribution, can really make a big impact and help amplify your campaign. Program alumni. These guys are the best. They have been inspired, they have been helped, they have a hero story to tell because your nonprofit stepped up and supported them. They also typically are a little bit older, a little bit more well-established, and in a place where they can and are ready to give back. So you can engage them for a one-time gift, a recurring gift, a major gift. You could ask them to create a fundraiser page and tell their story of being an alumni. Not everybody's going to be a peer-to-peer fundraiser, but there are going to be that handful of folks that are going to be incredible at doing it. And last, program partners. These folks are sometimes overlooked a little bit, I think. So they're the people who are the businesses and the folks that are supporting your program, but maybe not necessarily employed by your nonprofit. How are they helping you make the impact happen? And how can you capitalize and expand on that current relationship to invite them in to participate and support your organization for Colorado Gives Day? The easiest way, again, from my perspective, especially for program partners, is for them to create a fundraiser and tell their story. Why is this nonprofit important to me? Why am I raising funds for them for Colorado Gives Day? How am I associated with them? We also have a ton of amazing alumni giving pages on coloradogives.org. So if you're ever curious or want some examples, or you think I'm not showing you enough examples, go to our search, because we have a filter that allows you to really dig in and see different page types and different sizes of nonprofits with a matching grant set up. So I encourage you guys to explore coloradogives.org to see some of these pages in action that we're talking about. All right, back to the takeaways here. We have a toolkit to give you the messaging and resources to talk to these different segments. So we're having this discussion today to level set and identify who these groups are. In part 2, we are going to go through the demo to show you what buttons to click to use the tactics that we talked about today. We want you to begin segmenting now. It's a little bit of a finesse to think through who is the low-hanging fruit and how you might communicate with them this year. And you don't have to do all of these things. I never want anybody to feel overwhelmed. We want you to pick a segment or two segments to try this year, and we want you to measure that success. We want you to iterate on it for future Colorado Gives Days, and also for all your digital fundraising campaigns. Use what you've learned from Colorado Gives Day and apply it to what you're doing year round. All right. That's it, folks. I know I went a couple minutes over, but we do have scheduled an additional 30 minutes for question and answer. So if anybody has any questions, I'd love to take them now.
Okay, first, Jordan, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that popped up in chat, and then you can go ahead and come off mute after that. But the first question that I got in chat is, at what level of giving do you consider a major donor?
Good question. I'm going to head back up to, I would say major donors are whatever you determine that threshold is. So if we head back up, let me stop sharing my screen for a sec. So in our slide on major donors, we talked about taking a look at your last year or 2 years of data, averaging those gifts, and from that, seeing what those major gifts look like. What is the average major gift? That's going to be your threshold. So I think that's a moving target of a question sometimes, because it may change year over year. As you focus more on your major donors, you may see that threshold of major gift go up because more people are giving at a higher level because you're focusing more time and energy on it. So that's a great question. I would say evaluating your donor data from the past year or 2 years, if you're able to, and take a look at those big donations, average them, and that gives you a benchmark for how you can start applying some strategy to that. That's a great question. Thank you.
Okay, the next one is, how do we decide which tactics are best for our nonprofit to utilize or are best for a particular segment?
Yeah, so it really is, and I kept this general because you are going to have to do some decision making and work to see what you have capacity for, what is the lowest hanging fruit, and where you want to spend your time based on the goals that you're setting for your campaign. And so how do you decide? Well, go ahead and take a look at last year's campaign. And if you don't have last year's campaign, if this is year 1 for you for Colorado Gives Day, that's fine. Take a look at past fundraising campaigns that you've done, either online or otherwise. Understand who was giving, what was successful, and then take those learnings and apply them to Colorado Gives Day campaign. So while I can't tell you specifically, for you, it's gonna be volunteers, I think we could probably assume that for maybe an animal shelter who relies on volunteers, that might be a big, low-hanging fruit for you to engage if you haven't engaged them in the past. So we'll definitely dig in a little bit more when we're going through the tactical part of this in part 2 about how you might adjust the different tools for different segments. But as far as what to decide, I think that's reflecting on past campaigns and past donor data and seeing where the opportunities lie and where you want to focus your time. That was a long-winded answer, but it's important, I think.
If a recurring donor changes their amount to upgrade, does that count as a new one?
Good question. No. So they will have to cancel and set up a new recurring gift. That's a great question. The great news is they have control of all that. So they don't need to call or email your nonprofit a million times to ask how to do it. They are just logging in to coloradogives.org. They're navigating to their user account and they can see all of their recurring gifts listed and easily manage or set up new ones. But you are correct. that if they want to qualify for that 250K recurring gift match, they do need to, if they want, they can have multiple gifts set up. But if they only want one matching gift set up, they would cancel last year's and add this year's as new. That would qualify them. They can also have multiple recurring gifts going. So it doesn't have to be that they cancel the old one. They can just set up a new one. But that's a great question.
Okay, next one is, if you get a group matching grant, do you need to get those pledges up front? And could you talk more about that?
Good question. Yeah, so as far as a group matching grant, and this is on a group giving page for a business, you can set up a match. So the question was, do you have to identify those funds beforehand? I don't necessarily think so, not before creating the page. I mean, if you can identify funds beforehand, obviously that makes for a more complete, holistic view of your campaign and your messaging. But for any matching grant, if someone comes to you and says, hey, I have $5,000, can we use it as a match? It takes you mere minutes to set that match up on the platform. The other thing I'll mention is that a business, anybody who is a matching grantor, doesn't need to pay that matching grant through the system. So you don't necessarily have to have those funds in hand prior to setting it up on the page.
Jordan, would you be able to show us on the platform how you do that?
Yep, that'll be in part 2. So
Okay.
we will be doing, you will be sick of matching grants by the end of the part 2 demo. But yes, we certainly will. And you don't have to wait for me, folks. Like I said, we have resources that go through in detail how you can set up matches on any of these page types within our resources. But yes, we'll save that just for time's sake for our demo portion in part 2.
Great. Maddie asked a question earlier, just clarifying, were we talking pages through their business websites? And Maddie might need to come off mute to clarify that a little bit more, but he just said,
Yeah.
Are we talking pages through our business websites?
Yeah, so and Maddie, maybe this is something that we can chat about one-on-one. I'd be happy to do it. But I did address that these business pages are pages created on coloradogives.org. They are free pages. A business can create, your businesses have an unlimited amount of pages that they can create. Typically, a business is creating one page on coloradogives.org. That page has a logo on top as well as an image, and then it's also featuring one or multiple nonprofits. And the idea is that business is using that page to promote all the philanthropy that they want to support for Colorado Gives Day. And so they're sending that to their social networks, to their employees, to their partners to show and share and hopefully raise funds for your nonprofit for Colorado Gives Day. So these are pages that live within coloradogives.org. You can link them to business pages on your external website if that makes sense. Good question.
And do they show up as a fundraiser page too?
They are independent. So business pages are independent. They are separate from fundraiser pages, from team pages, and from event pages.
And then would you be able to show people how to customize their donation checkout where they can suggest an amount and share what that amount means in terms of impact?
Definitely. And again, you don't have to wait for me because I have definitely talked about this before, but I will be talking about it in part 2. We'll be going over personalizations. I'm going to drop in here. This is the the webinars link. It has all of our Colorado Gives Day webinars on it, but if you scroll down a bit, it has a bunch of other trainings, many of which specifically cover how to update your organization page. I'll share one specifically as a resource, and we will cover this a bit more. This is one of my favorite ones because it is comprehensive. This is a webinar I did on creating a value proposition. So what is your value proposition for your campaign and for your different audience segments? And with that, I do go through a full update of your organization page and tour.
Okay, and Caitlin was asking if we use the 30 or 60-minute meeting link for you / Colorado Gives, could we use that time to help target our strategies to our specific nonprofit?
Definitely, yeah. And that's why I always want to offer one-on-one meetings. So yes, let's book a meeting. Let's chat for 30 minutes or an hour, and let's talk through what your strategy might look like specific to your different partners.
And then Lisa was asking, is there a report I can easily pull for our Colorado Gives Day data from 2023, or should I search for specific dates to pull that info?
Great question. So you can go to your reports area on your organization page. So as long as you're an admin of your organization page, you're logging in, going to reports, you're going to all donations. And from there, you have two ways you can do it, all through filters. The first is you can select a custom date range. The second is you can filter by giving event. So it'll actually pop up and show you the date, a giving event option for 2023. So the reports are really dynamic. If you hop in there and fool around with the filtering options a bit, the answer is yes, you can access that information.
And those are all of our questions from chat. So if anybody has any other questions, they can come off mute and just go ahead and ask their questions that way.
Yeah. I saw one pop up from Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer, in chat just now. So I'll answer it quick. She's asking if you can set up personal giving pages. Oh, for donors. She's saying for donors. She's asking if you, meaning I assume nonprofit staff, can set up personal giving pages on behalf of donors. Yes, you can. I would use that energy though, if you're going to set up anybody's pages, to do that for your board members. And also remember that you can make it really easy for them to set it up themselves by setting up a template. So in your fundraising tools section on your organization page, you have the ability to set up a fundraiser template. And so while I love your enthusiasm, that might be overwhelming if it's more than a couple of donors. And so I want you to spend your time wisely. So go ahead and use or set up the fundraiser template and encourage them. Because at the end of the day, my philosophy is always that we want people to learn and experience and start to feel comfortable so that they come back and do it again and do it better next year. So if you guys are the ones that are creating the pages for them, I think there's just a level of less comfort than if they were to create it themselves. So that would be my suggestion, Jennifer. That's a great question. All right. Is there anybody else with questions in the chat or that wants to hop off mute? Jennifer says, yes, we do have to handhold our board members. It's true. It's like herding cats. All right, guys. Thank you.
I had a quick question, if
Sure.
that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
One of the things we've had some speed bumps on is people, board members included, aren't used to doing that ask and having that language that smooths it over when you're asking donors, asking recurring donors, going for those bigger donations. And I was wondering if there are any existing resources within Colorado Gives or outside of it that might be recommended.
Sure. So the struggle is that you're trying to encourage your board members, but they don't seem to have the right language to engage, or are you just talking overarching for campaign? You'd like some specific messaging?
A lot of it's board members, and they're just not comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So getting them over that hump to really, make them a smooth operator in the world of, asking for donations essentially is the thing.
Yeah, and it's not easy. And like I fundraise and talk about fundraising all the time, and as a board member, it's tough. I think that is really about, and we'll have messaging and templates within the toolkit, but I think it's using those templates and adjusting them specific to your nonprofit and to your campaign. So I think it is really about, with board members, either feeding them a couple of social or email suggestions, to provide them with some scenarios or a script. I know my local board that I served on provided us a script, which was so helpful, because like they make us call people and sometimes that's scary. So I think just taking a little bit of time to put some of those pieces together from the toolkit that we offer specific to your organization would be really helpful. And the other thing I'd say is, if they're really not comfortable with digital fundraising, online fundraising, again, you can create a fundraiser page that encompasses all your board members. It just talks generally about how awesome the board is. And you can say, hey, board member, share this link, email this link. And so the fundraiser page can do that work on behalf of the board member. So that might be another way that you eliminate some friction between asking your board to do something and them actually doing it. That's a great question.
Awesome. Thank you.
We got one more question in the chat. Can you include some board-specific template language in the toolkit to help them share the fundraisers?
Yeah, so we will have some specific messaging templates. I'll have to double check if board members is in there, but if not, the toolkit's not out yet, so it's certainly something we might be able to add. Thank you for that. All right, folks, it has been awesome. Thank you so much. I will see you soon for our next demo-focused webinar. I appreciate everybody's engagement today and idea sharing as we try to figure out how to get folks excited and giving for Colorado Gives Day. I don't think it'll be too hard, since we're doing pretty good already. All right, take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon.